All right, everybody. I wanted to talk to you all about green card through marriage. Green card through marriage. This is probably the biggest area of green card applications through spousal applications. I-130 for once you get married and you are an immigrant, you eventually want to proceed to applying for your green card. Now, this is a process that requires a lot to be proven. And in my view, not enough people take this as seriously as they should. The key is that you need to show the USCIS that your marriage is bona fide and it's not a sham marriage. It's not a sham marriage. A sham marriage is basically marriage that is entered into, more of a contract. And the purpose of it is to basically evade U.S. immigration laws by entering into a fake, aka sham marriage, in order to acquire a United States green card uh, by engaging in a sham marriage. Now, some people believe this is something that can easily be done. And I am a Ghanaian immigrant. I know a lot of Africans, and coming from being part of the African community, I know this is something that happens. It's not just unique to the African community. Other people from all over the world attempt to gain this type of green card, spousal green card, by way of marriage. And some of those marriages are considered sham and they are fake. And once you are caught, or once that you go through the process, and it is determined that indeed your marriage was a sham marriage, then that is a crime against the United States. And once the whole process is finished, including if you are referred to immigration court, and it's you go through the final process, and your case is in fact determined to be a sham marriage for the purposes of acquiring a U.S. Green card, then yes, you will be removed and will likely never be allowed to come into this country again, or without a waiver at least. So, what do you have to do? Obviously, when you get married in America, uh, we all get marriage certificates. There are some people that believe that's where you win the whole deal. If you are able to get a marriage certificate, you're going to become a green card holder because you have a marriage certificate. As you can see, that's not the case. That documentary or civil documentary documents to show that one is married is easy to attain, is easy to do, and this is where the bona fide marriage is, disparate from the sham marriage. Okay, there are a lot of things going to realizing or finding out whether or not a marriage is bona fide or is a sham marriage entered into for the purposes of evading or defrauding United States immigration law. After you have been married and you have your marriage certificate, you're going to have to attend a USCIS interview. People say, why the interview? Why is it? The interview is important. This is where a USCIS officer who is trained specifically to analyze your situation or your application, your petition, and to see whether or not, to analyze whether or not your marriage is bona fide for the purposes of family, marrying your spouse, and with intent to live together and to have a life together. If you're childbearing age, maybe children or what have you. The purpose of the interview is to have a human eye assess whether or not your marriage is indeed a bona fide one or a sham one intended to defraud the United States government. That's what you have to be able to show, that it is not a sham marriage. Some people think you can easily do this. You know, you have the same address, you have this, you have that, you have that. Hey, it's bona fide. You have a marriage certificate. Yeah. Well, obviously, the more things you have together as a marriage couple, the more of closer you are to being a bona fide marriage. Because most marriages, you put basically your residence, your insurances, your benefits, you have things in common, friends in common, a social life in common. You know each other's families, you know each other's friends, you know your children's name if you had children before you got married, all that. The officer is trained to assess, make an assessment based on your answers to questions that they're going to pose to you and your spouse, your U.S. citizen spouse. And you're going to have to answer those questions satisfactorily to the officer before the officer can go ahead and stamp you for a United States green card. You have to know each other. You have to know each other. I had somebody recently told me they had a client was denied the green card because the U.S. citizen spouse was unable to spell her beneficiary spouse's middle name. Middle name. So, in most instances, they expect people marrying each other to know their full names and how to spell them. So you may not, I'm sure this couple didn't anticipate that something like that would come up. However, if you're married and your marriage is indeed a real bona fide marriage, then it is expected that you would know these things. And if you don't know them, it will be quite evident at the interview. I've seen some things that just it shocks you to believe that there are people that believe you can just walk in and after applying for a green card and really not know much about your spouse. It doesn't take an officer too much of training and experience to spot what is known as a sham marriage. Okay? So I want to let you know about that. If your marriage needs to be real, you need to know each other. You need to show that it is bona fide. You have to be able to show that. Documents help, okay? But that is not the end all be all. Certainly, if you are not residing in the same house or the same residence, you're going to have to understand that right there you have a high bar to prove a bona fide marriage. Because most marriages, once they get married, we usually have the same residence. We live together as a couple, as a genuine bona fide husband and wife, or whatever have you, your partner, your spouse. Nowadays, same-sex marriages are part of the whole thing. So you're going to have to basically show that your marriage is bona fide and it's not a sham one. I'm seeing too many people think they can just go ahead and just do it and just expect to be handed a green card. That's not how it works, okay? So please, if you've been told, if people who are in it for money for themselves have expressed to you that just find somebody and marry them, or find somebody and pay them and they'll marry you and you get your green card, you need to understand that you're being placed into a potential situation where you will be committing a felony against the United States. Okay? Now, if you do fall in love genuinely with somebody who's an American citizen or permanent resident of lawful permanent resident of the United States, and you do want to get married, and you do get married, Nothing's absolutely wrong with that. Nothing's wrong with that. Again, you just have to be able to satisfactorily show the officer who you will be talking with in an interview that your marriage is bona fide. That interview, keep in mind, it's possible you could be in separate rooms. Okay, it's very possible. You will both be at the will be requested to attend the interview at the same time, but you got to make sure that whatever information that you're about to provide will be consistent with your spouse. Because if you're interviewed separately, you need to be able to satisfactorily both answer the questions, and they are very involved questions. Not just basically like, hey, I've had questions to the effect of, what time does your wife shower for work? What time does your husband get home from work? What time? What does your partner do? What does your partner drive? What is your partner's mother's full name? What is your spouse's siblings' names? These things you have to be able to essentially demonstrate that your marriage is real, and you know each other, you care about each other, you have a future together, and that is what's going to make the officer feel comfortable enough and confident enough to approve your petition. Okay, they are trained. Remember that the officers of the USCIS are trained and are ready. Any marriage involving a U.S. citizen, a lawful permanent resident, and an immigrant, in order to start the process for a green card, officers are trained, and typically they are ready and suspicious, and suspicious before you even get there. So you have a high bar, and you have to be prepared to show what you need to show, and also pictures. You can be married and no pictures, or loving pictures of you socializing together with yourself and other family members and friends. You have to have a life that the officer will find satisfactory, and will conclude that indeed your marriage is bona fide and not a sham one. So, if you have questions, you can contact me, Attorney Wilberforce Agyekum. Get us through our website. You can even contact me here if you get this video here on Facebook. Feel free to contact me. I'm at Ivy Law Office, ivylawoffice.com, and I'll be happy to talk to you if you need assistance, okay? All right. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Oops.